The judge did not expect to laugh that morning. It slipped out when the man at the podium answered a routine question in careful English, then corrected himself in Spanish, then again in Mandarin. The courtroom reacted before the judge could stop it. A few quiet chuckles, a raised eyebrow. The assumption that this was performance, not truth. The man stood still. One hand rested on the edge of the stand. The other held a folded birth certificate that had been unfolded too many times. He did not smile. He did not explain. He waited. The case was small on paper. A custody review. A language access dispute. Nothing that usually changed anyone's life. But something in the room had already shifted. The laughter had crossed a line, and once crossed, it could not be taken back. If you care about stories that move slowly and end honestly, consider staying with this one. Elias Moreno arrived at the courthouse 20 minutes early because arriving early reduced variables. It gave him time to pass through security without rushing, to remove his belt and shoes in the same order each time, to place his papers back into his bag with the corners aligned. The guard nodded without looking at him. Elias nodded back. This was normal. The building smelled like disinfectant and old paper. The floors reflected the overhead lights unevenly, as if they had been polished too many times in some places and not enough in others. Elias followed the signs to courtroom B, reading them without slowing down. He had read them before. He could have walked there with his eyes closed, but he did not. He sat on the wooden bench near the aisle. He placed his bag between his feet and rested both hands on top of it. The hearing was scheduled for 10 minutes. A review, his lawyer had said on the phone the week before. Procedural, nothing dramatic. Elias had repeated that word to himself afterward. Procedural. It suggested order, predictability. He took out his phone and checked it once. No new messages. His daughter, Sophia, would still be in class. He pictured her backpack hanging on the back of her chair, one strap always slipping off. He imagined the sound of the bell, the way she waited an extra few seconds before standing, as if that might change something. He put the phone back into his pocket without unlocking it again. Other people filtered in. A man in a gray suit talking too loudly. A woman flipping through papers with sharp, quick movements. A court clerk arranging files at the front, tapping them into neat stacks. Elias watched their hands more than their faces. Hands showed what people expected next. When the judge entered, everyone stood. Elias stood with them. The judge did not look up right away. He adjusted his robe, cleared his throat, and sat. The clerk began reading case numbers. Elias listened for his name. He had heard it pronounced many ways. Today it came out clipped, efficient, as if it belonged to someone else. "Mr. Moreno," the clerk said. Elias stepped forward when instructed. He walked to the podium and set his bag down carefully at his feet. The wood was smooth where thousands of hands had rested before his. He placed his palms flat on the edge, not gripping, just touching. The microphone was slightly too low. He bent toward it instead of adjusting it. The judge looked at the file. He flipped a page, then another. He did not look at Elias yet. "This is a custody compliance review," the judge said. His voice was neutral. Trained to be neutral. "Yes," Elias said. The word came out steady. He had practiced steadiness. It was easier than confidence. The judge continued reading. Dates. Prior orders. A note about language access accommodations. Elias listened closely. There were 2 small errors already. Dates shifted by a day. A form attributed to the wrong agency. He said nothing. Corrections could come later, if needed. Right now, his role was to answer what was asked. The judge finally looked up. "Mr. Moreno," he said again, this time slower. "What language do you prefer to proceed in today?" It was a standard question. Elias recognized it as such. He had been asked versions of it at hospitals, at schools, at offices where numbers were called instead of names. The question itself did not bother him. What mattered was how it was received. "English is fine," Elias said. Then after a brief pause he added, "Any language is fine." The judge's eyebrow lifted slightly. "Any language," the judge repeated. "Yes," Elias said. There was a faint sound behind him. Not quite laughter yet. More like surprise that had not decided what to become. The judge leaned back in his chair. He glanced down at the file again. "You're listed here as requiring interpretation services," the judge said. "I understand," Elias said. "And you're saying you don't need them." "I'm saying I can understand and respond," Elias said, "in English, or Spanish, or—" The judge raised a hand. "Slow down," he said, not unkindly. "Let's keep this simple." Elias stopped speaking. He nodded once. The judge looked at him more directly now. There was a hint of amusement there, or curiosity. Elias could not tell which. He focused on the edge of the podium. He could feel the grain of the wood under his fingertips. "So," the judge said, "which language do you want us to use?" Elias considered the question, not the words, but the space around them. He thought of school meetings where he had chosen English to avoid delay, doctor visits where he had switched to Spanish because it was faster, phone calls where Mandarin had solved the problem in minutes that English could not. None of that seemed to fit here. "English," he said finally, "if that's what the court prefers." The judge smiled. It was brief, controlled. "We prefer honesty," he said. The room was quiet. The clerk paused with her pen hovering above the page. Elias lifted his head. He opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. He adjusted his stance instead, shifting his weight evenly between both feet. "I am being honest," he said. The judge looked at him for a long moment without speaking. Then he glanced out toward the benches as if checking whether anyone else had noticed something amusing. A small sound escaped him, a short laugh. It surprised even him. Elias did not move. He kept his hands where they were. He waited for the next question. The judge leaned forward again. "Let's continue," he said, but something in the room had already changed. The judge flipped another page, paper against paper. The sound landed harder than Elias expected. He focused on breathing through his nose, slow and even. He had learned that from years of waiting rooms and offices where outcomes depended on how calm a person appeared. "We'll note English," the judge said, making a mark on the file, "and move on." Elias nodded once. He did not relax. Moving on did not mean resolving. It only meant postponing. The judge asked a series of questions that followed a familiar pattern: address verification, employment status, compliance with the previous custody order. Elias answered each one clearly. He kept his sentences short. He did not volunteer information. This was not the place for explanation, unless it was requested. Yes. No. That is correct. When the judge asked about his work schedule, Elias described it in neutral terms: hours, location, consistency. He did not mention the calls he took during lunch breaks or the way he rearranged shifts when Sophia was sick. Those details were not on the form. They did not fit the format. The judge listened with half attention, making notes, occasionally glancing up. Each glance felt evaluative, not curious. Elias accepted that. Evaluation was the purpose of the room. Then the judge paused again. "Mr. Moreno," he said, tapping the file with his pen, "this notation here says you've requested documents in multiple languages over the years." "Yes," Elias said, "and you're telling us you speak all of them." "I understand them," Elias said. "I speak most." The judge smiled wider this time. The expression reached the corners of his mouth but not his eyes. "How many is most exactly?" The question drew a few heads up from the benches. Elias was aware of them now. He had not been before. He could feel attention settle on him like a weight. 11, he said. The judge blinked. There it was. The moment Elias had been expecting since the first pause, though he had not known exactly how it would arrive. 11, the judge repeated, slower, as if testing the sound of it. Yes. There was laughter this time. Not loud, not cruel, but real enough to spread. Someone near the back exhaled sharply through their nose. Another person shifted, suppressing a smile. The judge chuckled again, more openly now. 11 languages, he said. That's impressive. Elias did not respond. Compliments were not questions. The judge leaned back, folding his hands over his stomach. And you expect the court to believe that, he said. The word believe settled into the room. Elias felt it land. He straightened slightly, not in defense, but alignment. He wanted to be heard accurately, if nothing else. "I'm not asking the court to believe anything," he said. "I'm answering the question." The judge tilted his head. "You understand how that sounds," he said. Elias considered correcting him. He chose not to. Understanding how something sounded was different from intending how it was heard. "I understand," Elias said. The judge's smile faded. He looked down at the file again, then back up. "Mr. Moreno," he said, "this court deals with facts, not exaggeration." "I'm not exaggerating," Elias said. The judge raised his eyebrows again, this time higher. "So you're fluent in 11 languages," he said. "Just like that." "I didn't say fluent," Elias said. "I said I understand them, and I can communicate." The judge laughed once more. It was sharper now, shorter. "Come on," he said. "You expect us to accept that without any verification?" Elias felt something tighten in his chest. Not anger, not yet. More like recognition. He had been here before, in different rooms, with different authority figures. The shift from curiosity to dismissal was familiar. "I can verify it," Elias said, "if the court allows." The judge cut him off. "This is not a talent show," he said, "and it's not relevant." The clerk's pen stopped moving. The room quieted again, waiting. Elias swallowed. He felt the urge to explain rise quickly, pressing upward. He pushed it down. Explanation, when unwelcome, often made things worse. "It's relevant to the record," Elias said carefully, "and to the accommodations noted." The judge leaned forward. His voice dropped slightly. "Are you telling this court that the existing record is wrong?" "I'm saying it's incomplete," Elias said. The judge stared at him. The silence stretched. Elias kept his eyes level. He did not look away. He did not challenge the stare either. He simply stayed. Then the judge shook his head. "No," he said. "What you're doing is overstating your abilities." Elias felt the words land with more force than the laughter had. Overstating implied intention. It implied deceit. "That's not true," Elias said. The judge's expression hardened. "Watch your tone," he said. Elias adjusted immediately. He lowered his voice. "I apologize," he said. "I'm trying to be precise." The judge exhaled through his nose. "Precision would have been answering the question simply," he said. "Instead, you chose to embellish." Elias's hands curled slightly against the edge of the podium. He noticed it and relaxed them again. "I didn't embellish," he said. "I answered." The judge closed the file with a firm motion. "I find that hard to believe," he said. The sentence was quiet, almost casual, but it carried weight. It did not accuse directly. It suggested. Elias felt heat rise in his face. He kept his posture unchanged. "I'm not lying," he said. The judge's eyes narrowed. "That's enough," he said. "We're not going to play games." Then, clearly, deliberately, he said it. "You're lying, Mr. Moreno." The words sat between them. Heavy. Official. Elias did not speak. He felt something give way, not breaking but shifting, like a door closing somewhere he had expected to stay open. The judge looked down at the clerk. "Note that," he said. The pen moved again. Elias stood at the podium, silent, while his credibility was reduced to a sentence in someone else's handwriting. The hearing continued. But for Elias, something essential had already ended. The judge moved on without looking at Elias again. Questions resumed, directed more at the file than the person standing in front of it. Elias answered when prompted. His voice sounded the same to his own ears, though he felt the effort it took to keep it that way. The clerk read from the record. Dates. Compliance notes. Missed exchanges, explained by work conflicts, noted without context. Elias listened carefully. The record spoke with confidence. It always did. It was not designed to hesitate. When the clerk reached the section labeled Language Accommodations, Elias felt the tension return. The words were familiar. He had seen them before, typed in a neutral font that made everything seem settled. Interpreter services provided as needed, the clerk read. Primary language, Spanish. The judge nodded as if this confirmed something. Elias shifted his weight slightly. He did not interrupt. Interrupting rarely improved things. It often looked like defensiveness. The judge glanced up. So, he said, given what we've already discussed, this notation stands. Elias inhaled slowly. It's incomplete, he said. The judge looked irritated now. We've addressed this, he said. You've made your point. I haven't, Elias said. Then, immediately, respectfully. The judge tapped his pen against the desk once. The court doesn't require a full biography, he said. It requires clarity. I'm asking for accuracy, Elias said. There was a difference, but the judge did not appear interested in exploring it. You've already complicated a simple matter, the judge said. Let's not extend that. Elias felt the attention in the room sharpen again. He could sense people watching, measuring whether he would push further. He thought of Sophia's teacher meetings, how he had learned to phrase concerns as questions so they sounded less like challenges. He tried that now. If the record remains as it is, he said, will that affect future proceedings? The judge paused. This was a procedural question. It could not be dismissed easily. It could, the judge said. Then I'd like it to be correct, Elias said. The judge studied him. Not the file this time. Elias, you understand, the judge said slowly, that claiming proficiency in 11 languages raises credibility concerns. Elias nodded. I understand that it sounds unusual, he said, and yet you insist on it. Yes. Why? The judge asked. The question was sharper than the word suggested. Elias recognized it as a test. Motivation mattered more than truth in this moment. Because it's true, Elias said. Then he stopped himself. That answer was insufficient here, he added, and because it affects how I interact with schools, doctors, and courts on my daughter's behalf. The mention of his daughter did not soften the judge's expression. That's not what's at issue, he said. It's connected, Elias said. The judge sighed. Mr. Moreno, he said, this court has limited time. We can't verify every claim made by every party. I can provide verification, Elias said again. Certificates, transcripts, employers who... The judge raised his hand. No, he said, that won't be necessary. Elias felt something settle in his stomach. Not fear. Finality. The judge leaned back. The record will stand as is, he said. Interpreter services remain available, and your statement regarding multiple languages will be disregarded. Disregarded. The word felt cleaner than lying, but it carried the same effect. Elias nodded once. He accepted the ruling outwardly. Inside, he adjusted. Acceptance did not require agreement. The judge continued with the custody schedule. Temporary adjustments were mentioned, framed as administrative. Elias listened carefully. The changes were small on paper. 10 minutes here, a pickup reassigned. A drop-off moved to a different day, but he could already see the ripple. Sophia waiting longer after school. A neighbor he would have to ask for help. Another favor added to a short list. Any objections? The judge asked. Elias hesitated. Objection required justification. Justification required credibility. No, he said. The judge nodded. Good, he said. Then we're finished here. The gavel struck once. The sound was dull. Final. Everyone stood. Elias stood with them. He gathered his papers methodically. He placed them back into his bag in the same order he had removed them. Order mattered, even when outcomes did not. As people began to file out, Elias remained where he was for a moment. The clerk looked at him, then away. The judge had already turned to speak with someone else. Elias stepped back from the podium. His legs felt steady. That surprised him. In the hallway outside, the air felt different, less controlled. Voices overlapped. Shoes echoed. Elias walked toward the exit. Halfway there, he stopped and reached into his bag. He pulled out a folded document, a birth certificate. Sophia's name was printed clearly at the top. Below it, his own. He unfolded it once, then again. The creases were worn thin. He did not know yet what he would need it for. He only knew that what was written down and what was believed were no longer the same thing. He folded the paper carefully and placed it back in the bag. Then he walked out of the building and into the afternoon. Elias stood on the courthouse steps for a moment before moving. The sky was pale, washed out, the kind of afternoon that felt unfinished. People passed him in both directions, talking in the phones, holding folders, already shifting their attention to whatever came next. Elias stayed where he was until the rhythm of the place no longer pulled at him. He checked the time. He had enough margin to reach Sophia's school before dismissal. The schedule change would not affect today. Not yet. He walked to the bus stop instead of the parking lot. He had learned that walking gave his thoughts less room to spiral. The bus arrived late. He did not mind. Delays were easier when they had clear causes. Inside he stood near the back, one hand on the rail. Two teenagers argued softly in a language he recognized without trying. He turned his attention to the window instead. Recognition was not something he felt like carrying openly right now. At Sophia's school, he waited outside the gate with the other parents. Most of them knew him by sight. Some nodded. A few smiled. No one spoke. He was used to that too. Familiarity without closeness. Sophia came out near the end. She spotted him and waved, her arm moving too high, too fast. She ran the last few steps and stopped abruptly in front of him, catching herself. "Did it go okay?" she asked. Her voice was simple, direct. She did not dress questions up. "It's done," Elias said. She accepted that. She always did. She adjusted her backpack strap and started walking beside him. They matched pace easily. They had practiced that without naming it. As they walked, she talked about her day. A math quiz. A classmate who had cried. A substitute teacher who pronounced names wrong and kept going anyway. Elias listened, responding when needed. He asked questions that kept her talking but did not pull focus. When they reached the corner, Sophia stopped. "You're late next week," she said. It was not a question. Elias paused. The schedule change had already found its way to her. "Yes," he said. "Just one day." "Why?" He considered his answer. He could explain procedure. He could explain authority. None of it would make sense in a way that mattered to her. "Someone decided something without asking me first," he said. Sophia frowned. "That's not fair," she said. "No," Elias said. "It isn't." She nodded, satisfied with the clarity. They crossed the street together. That evening, after Sophia was asleep, Elias sat at the small table in the kitchen. He spread out the documents from the hearing. The language accommodation form sat on top. He read it slowly, even though he already knew every line. He took out a pen and made notes in the margins. Not corrections. Questions. What did this affect? Who saw this? How far did it travel? He opened his laptop and drafted an email to the court clerk. He kept it short, factual, polite. He attached nothing. He reread it once, then deleted it. Instead, he opened another folder. Certificates scanned from years earlier. A transcript from a training program overseas. Letters from employers who had relied on him to translate contracts, safety briefings, medical instructions. He did not feel pride looking at them. Only confirmation. They existed whether or not the court believed him. He printed 3 documents and placed them in a new folder. He labeled it carefully. The next morning, he went to work as usual. The office was loud. Phones rang. Someone shouted across the room in a language that was not English. Elias responded automatically, then stopped himself. He let someone else handle it. At lunch, his supervisor approached him. "You okay?" she asked. "You were quiet in the meeting." "Yes," Elias said. She hesitated. "I heard about the court thing," she said. "Someone mentioned it." Elias looked at her. "What did they say?" She shrugged. "That you claim something kind of unbelievable," she said. "Languages or something." "Languages or something." Elias nodded. And that the judge didn't buy it," she said. Elias took a bite of his sandwich. He chewed slowly. "It wasn't a claim," he said. "It was an answer." She watched him for a moment, then nodded. "Right," she said. Well, if you ever need something from us, let me know. He knew what that meant. Support, offered carefully, without commitment. That afternoon, Elias received an automated email from the court. It confirmed the temporary schedule change. No explanation. No room for response. He stared at the screen longer than necessary. Authority did not announce itself loudly. It arrived quietly, already decided. He closed the email. That night, he took out the folder again. He added one more document, a notarized statement he had never needed before. He did not know yet how it would be used. Only that the next time he stood in that room, he would not rely on being believed. He would rely on proof. The follow-up hearing was scheduled 2 weeks later. It appeared on Elias's calendar without comment, placed between work shifts and school pickup like any other obligation. He did not tell Sophia about it until the night before. He framed it as a short meeting. He did not say court. That morning, he wore the same jacket. It still fit the same way. He checked the seams anyway. He placed the new folder in his bag, separate from the others. He did not open it on the bus. He watched the stops pass and counted them without effort. In the courtroom, the benches were half full. Different faces this time. The clerk recognized him and nodded once professionally. The judge entered and took his seat without looking up. The gavel did not sound. It was not needed. When Elias's name was called, he stepped forward. He placed the bag at his feet. He did not rest his hands on the podium this time. He held the folder instead, flat against his chest, as if to remind himself it was there. The judge looked at the file. "This is a continuation," he said. "Limited scope." "Yes," Elias said. The judge adjusted his glasses. "We'll proceed in English," he said, not as a question. "Yes," Elias said again. The clerk began reading. Elias listened for changes. There were none. The earlier notation remained. The word line did not appear, but its effect did. When the clerk finished, the judge looked up. "Any new information?" he asked. Elias waited a beat. He did not rush the answer. "Yes," he said. "I brought documentation to clarify the record." The judge's mouth tightened. "We discussed this," he said. "That won't be necessary." "It addresses the concern you raised," Elias said, "about verification." The judge leaned back. "I raised no concern," he said. "I made a finding." Elias nodded. "That's what I'm asking to address," he said. The judge looked at the clerk, then back at Elias. "This court does not revisit credibility determinations lightly," he said. "I understand," Elias said. "I'm not asking you to revisit. I'm asking you to correct." The judge's eyes narrowed slightly. "Correct what?" "The assumption that I misrepresented myself," Elias said. The room felt smaller. Elias was aware of his breathing again. He kept it steady. The judge tapped his pen once. "Mr. Moreno," he said, "you were warned previously about embellishment." "I wasn't embellishing," Elias said. "I was precise." The judge smiled thinly. "Precision would have included proof at the time," he said. "I wasn't permitted to provide it," Elias said. The judge's smile faded. "Careful," he said. Elias adjusted his grip on the folder. He did not open it. He did not step forward. "I'm being careful," he said. The judge glanced at the clock. "We are not turning this into a debate," he said. "Your custody schedule remains as ordered. Interpreter services remain available. Your personal claims about language ability remain unsupported." "They are supported," Elias said, "right here." He lifted the folder slightly, not toward the judge, just enough to make it visible. The judge did not look at it. "I am not accepting that," he said. Elias felt a familiar tightening, but something else moved with it now. Resolve, perhaps, or clarity. "Then I need it noted," Elias said. "Noted that what?" the judge asked. "That I offered documentation, and it was refused," Elias said. The clerk's pen hesitated. The judge leaned forward. "You are testing the court's patience," he said. "I'm asking for the record to reflect what happened," Elias said. The judge stared at him. The silence stretched. Elias did not look away. Then the judge spoke, slowly. "The record already reflects what happened," he said. "It reflects that you made an implausible claim, and that this court found it unreliable. Elias felt the words settle. Implausible. Unreliable. That is not accurate, he said. The judge's voice hardened. It is accurate, he said, and continuing to insist otherwise only reinforces the finding. Elias inhaled. He exhaled. Then say it clearly, he said. The judge paused. Say what clearly, he asked. That you believe I lied, Elias said. The judge's jaw set. I've already said that, he said. In substance, if not in those exact words. Say the words, Elias said. The clerk looked up sharply. A few people in the benches shifted. The judge's eyes locked on Elias. You're lying, he said. The words were not raised. They were not dramatic. They were placed carefully, like a stamp. Elias felt the moment settle into him. He did not react outwardly. He did not speak. Note that, the judge said to the clerk. The pen moved. Elias stood still. He lowered the folder back against his chest. He did not open it. He understood now that opening it would change nothing in this room. The judge dismissed the matter quickly after that. There was no further discussion, no acknowledgement of what had been offered or refused. When it was over, Elias turned and walked back to the bench. He placed the folder into his bag without looking inside. He zipped it closed. As he left the courtroom, he did not pause. He did not look back. In the hallway, the sound of voices returned. Someone laughed about something else. Life continued with ease around the place where his word had been formally stripped of value. Outside, the air was cooler than he expected. He stood still for a moment, then took out his phone. There was a message from Sophia's school, a reminder about early dismissal next Friday. Elias typed a response. Simple. Confirmed. He put the phone away and started walking. Something had been crossed. Not just a line in a courtroom, but a boundary he had not known he was relying on. He adjusted his pace and kept going. The consequences did not arrive all at once. They came in pieces, spaced far enough apart to feel administrative rather than punitive. Elias noticed them because he was trained to notice small changes. He had learned that systems rarely announce their decisions plainly. The first was a letter. White envelope. Standard seal. He opened it at the kitchen table while Sophia did her homework across from him. He read it once, then again, slower. Interpreter services were being reassigned. A different provider, a longer wait time. The explanation cited efficiency. He folded the letter and placed it beside his plate. What is it? Sophia asked without looking up. Paperwork, Elias said. She nodded and kept writing. The next consequence came by phone. A voicemail from the school district. They needed confirmation of language preference for upcoming meetings. The message referenced the court record. Elias listened to it twice. The tone was polite. Official. It left no room for correction. He returned the call during his lunch break. English is fine, he said when asked. Then, after a pause, but I don't require an interpreter. There was a brief silence on the other end. Our system shows, the woman began. I know what it shows, Elias said. It's incomplete. Another pause. I'll make a note, she said. He knew what that meant. A note was not a change. At work, small adjustments followed. He was no longer asked to assist with translation during meetings. Requests that had once come directly now went elsewhere. No one explained why. They did not need to. Authority had spoken somewhere else, and the echo had traveled. Elias adapted. He worked his hours. He completed his tasks. He left on time. Efficiency became a shield. One afternoon, Sophia waited longer than usual after school. Elias arrived late because of a bus delay compounded by a schedule shift he had not requested. She stood near the fence when he arrived, her backpack on the ground, her arms folded. You said you'd be here, she said. I know, Elias said. I'm sorry. She looked at him closely. Not accusing, measuring. Did you forget? She asked. No, Elias said. I wasn't allowed to come earlier. She frowned. Why not? He considered the answer. He chose the smallest truth that still held. Because someone wrote something down, he said. And other people believed it. Sophia was quiet for a moment. They didn't ask you? She said. No, Elias said. That's weird, she said. Yes, Elias said. It is. They walked home in silence. That night, Elias made dinner while Sophia did her reading at the table. He moved carefully, deliberately, chopping vegetables, stirring, tasting. Physical tasks helped anchor him. They did not ask questions. Afterward, he washed the dishes and dried them immediately instead of letting them air dry. He noticed that he was being more exact than usual. He accepted that. Later, after Sophia was asleep, Elias took out the folder again. He opened it this time. He spread the documents across the table: certificates, transcripts, letters. Each one verified something the court had dismissed without looking. He stacked them neatly. He opened his laptop and drafted a formal complaint. He addressed it to the oversight office listed on the court's website. He wrote plainly: dates, quotes, outcomes. He attached the documents. He stopped before sending it. He thought of the judge's voice, calm, certain. He thought of the clerk's pen moving without hesitation. He thought of the word lying entered into a system that did not forget. He saved the draft. He did not send it. The final consequence arrived on a Friday afternoon. Another automated notice. The temporary custody adjustment was being extended pending review. No timeline. No explanation. Elias sat at the table with a notice in front of him. Sophia sat across from him, swinging her legs. "So I stay later again?" she asked. "Yes," Elias said. She nodded. Then she said, "You didn't lie." The sentence was simple, flat. It did not argue. It stated. Elias looked at her. "No," he said. "They should listen," she said. He did not answer right away. He reached across the table and straightened a corner of her paper that had curled. "They don't always," he said. She watched him. "Then why do you keep being quiet?" she asked. The question stayed with him after she went to bed. It did not accuse. It reframed. Elias sat alone at the table long after the apartment grew quiet. He looked at the unsent complaint on his laptop screen. He looked at the folder of proof. Silence had protected him before. It had allowed him to move through systems without friction. Now it was costing him time with his daughter. He closed the laptop without shutting it down. The screen went dark. In the quiet, he understood that staying silent was no longer neutral. It was a decision. Elias sent the complaint the next morning. He did not reread it before clicking submit. He had already read it enough times to know it said only what happened. He closed the laptop and stood at the sink, watching the water run until it was hot. Then he turned it off. Action finished. Outcome unknown. The response did not come quickly. That was expected. What did come was another hearing notice. Review of accommodations. Mandatory appearance. Elias marked the date and adjusted his work schedule without explanation. He told Sophia he would be late that afternoon. He did not tell her why. She accepted it with a nod that was more grown than he liked. The courthouse felt different when he returned, not because the building had changed, but because he no longer expected anything from it. Expectation had been the quiet risk he hadn't named before. In the courtroom, the same judge presided. The same clerk sat below him. Elias noticed the clerk avoided his eyes this time. When his name was called, Elias approached the podium. He placed his bag at his feet. He did not hold the folder to his chest now. He placed it on the podium, closed. The judge glanced at it, then looked at Elias. "This hearing concerns accommodations," he said, "not your personal grievances." "Yes," Elias said. The judge adjusted his glasses. "You filed a complaint," he said. "Yes," Elias said. The judge's mouth tightened. "That process exists for a reason," he said, "but it does not suspend this court's authority." "I understand," Elias said. The clerk read the updated notes. There was new language this time. Neutral, cautious, words like review, pending, and clarification requested. The word lying did not appear. Elias listened carefully. The absence mattered. When the clerk finished, the judge spoke again. "You submitted documentation," he said. "Yes," Elias said. I've reviewed some of it, the judge said. Elias waited. He did not ask which parts. The materials suggest familiarity with multiple languages, the judge said. Suggest, not confirm. Yes, Elias said. The judge looked down at the file. This court is prepared to acknowledge that your earlier statement may have been overstated in its interpretation, he said. Elias felt the phrasing land, carefully constructed. Error without fault. I didn't overstate it, Elias said. The judge looked up sharply. This is not an apology hearing, he said. I'm not asking for one, Elias said. I'm asking for accuracy. The judge sighed. The record will be amended to reflect that you possess multilingual communication skills, he said. Interpreter services will remain available at the court's discretion. At the court's discretion, authority preserved. And the credibility finding? Elias asked. The judge paused. That stands, he said. Elias nodded once. He had expected that. So the record will say I can communicate, Elias said, but that I was not believed when I said so. The judge did not respond immediately. That is a fair characterization, he said finally. Elias felt the shape of the decision settle. Partial correction. Lingering doubt. This resolves the accommodation issue, the judge said. As for custody scheduling, the prior adjustment will remain until further review. Elias understood. Truth acknowledged without consequence. The judge looked at him. Anything further? He asked. Elias considered the folder on the podium. He considered Sophia waiting after school. He considered the cost of continuing to press. No, he said. The judge nodded. Then we're done, he said. The gavel struck. Elias gathered his things. He did not rush. He did not linger. Outside the courtroom, the clerk approached him quietly. I'm sorry, she said, not meeting his eyes. Elias nodded. I know, he said. It was not forgiveness. It was recognition of limits. On the way out, Elias checked his phone. A message from Sophia. One word. Home? Soon, he typed back. He stepped outside. The air felt heavier than before. Not oppressive. Weighted. He had corrected the record enough to matter. Not enough to repair what had shifted. He walked toward the bus stop. He did not look back at the building. Some things, once said by authority, could not be fully unsaid. He understood that now. The offer arrived by email 3 days later. It was written carefully, each sentence balanced to sound reasonable. A proposed resolution. No admission of error. No reference to the complaint. Just a path forward. Elias read it once on his phone while standing on the bus. He read it again that night at the table. The terms were simple. His custody schedule would be restored to its original form. Interpreter assignments would remain flexible. In exchange, he would agree not to pursue further action related to prior proceedings. The language was neutral. Cooperative. It framed the decision as mutual. Elias printed the email and placed it beside the folder. He did not stack them together. He wanted to see the distance between proof and outcome. When Sophia came home from school, she dropped her bag by the door and sat at the table without being asked. You're early, she said. Yes, Elias said. She smiled slightly. Then she looked at the paper in front of him. Is it fixed? She asked. He considered how to answer. The question was direct. It deserved one. It can be, he said. She waited. But only if I stop talking about what happened, he added. Sophia frowned. Why? Because that's how they want it, Elias said. She leaned back in her chair. That's not fair, she said again. The phrase returned, unchanged. No, Elias said. It isn't. She thought about it for a moment. If you stop, she asked, do you get to pick me up again? Yes, Elias said. She nodded. Then you should do it, she said. The answer was immediate, practical, unburdened by principle. Elias watched her. He understood what she was saying. Stability mattered more than acknowledgement. Presence mattered more than correction. That night, after Sophia was asleep, Elias sat with the email open on his laptop. He reread the terms slowly. He thought about the complaint still in progress, the months it could take, the attention it would require. the risk of further adjustments while things were under review. He thought about the judge's voice, about the way authority preserved itself by narrowing options until only one seemed reasonable. He signed the agreement digitally and sent it back. The confirmation arrived within minutes. Efficient. Final. The next day, the schedule reverted. Pickups returned to their original times. The change was visible immediately. Sophia waited less. Elias arrived without explanation. At work, nothing changed back. He was not asked to translate again. He did not offer. The absence settled into routine. A week later, he received a brief notice from the oversight office. The complaint had been closed. No findings. No action recommended. The language was polite, definitive. Elias read it once and deleted it. He placed the folder back on the shelf where it had lived for years. He did not label it. He did not discard it either. One afternoon, while cleaning, Sophia pulled the folder down. "What's this?" she asked. "Old papers," Elias said. "From when they said you lied." "Yes," Elias said. She opened it and looked at the documents inside. She did not read them closely. "They're boring," she said. Elias smiled once. Briefly. "Yes," he said. "They are." She put the folder back and went to her room. Later that evening, Elias stood at the sink washing dishes. He moved at a steady pace. He noticed that his shoulders were lower than they had been in weeks. The tension had eased, but something else had taken its place. He had chosen access over correction, time over record. The decision had a cost, but it had been paid. When he finished, he dried his hands and turned off the light. Some truths remained unspoken, not because they were weak, but because speaking them demanded a price he was no longer willing to pay. The system remained intact. So did his role within it, adjusted, quieter and narrower than before. Elias no longer arrived early to places that asked him to wait. On the morning of Sophia's parent-teacher conference, he arrived exactly on time. Not before. Not after. He stood outside the classroom until the minute hand reached the top, then knocked once, and entered when invited. He greeted the teacher politely. He sat where he was directed. He listened. When the teacher asked if English was comfortable for him, Elias answered yes. He did not add anything else. The teacher nodded and moved on. The meeting stayed short, efficient. Nothing was misunderstood. On the walk home, Sophia talked about a group project. Elias listened. He did not correct her when she mixed up a detail. He let it pass. Accuracy no longer felt urgent in the same way. That afternoon, he stopped by the courthouse to file an unrelated form. It was routine. A signature. A stamp. No hearing. At the counter, the clerk asked for identification. Elias slid his card across. He watched as it was checked, entered, returned. "Language preference?" the clerk asked, eyes already moving to the screen. "English," Elias said. The clerk nodded and continued typing. There was no pause, no curiosity, no challenge. Elias signed where indicated and stepped away. Outside, he stood on the steps for a moment. Not because he needed to, but because he noticed that he no longer felt pulled to explain himself to the building behind him. It had lost that power. At home, Sophia was at the table drawing. Papers spread wide. Markers uncapped. She had written her name at the top of the page, then crossed it out and written it again more carefully. Elias set his keys down and washed his hands. "Can you look?" she asked. He leaned over the table. The drawing was simple. A school. A sidewalk. Two figures walking side by side. "That's us," she said. "Yes," Elias said. "You're taller here," she said, pointing. He smiled slightly. "That's probably accurate," he said. She picked up a marker and added something near his figure, a small shape near the mouth. "What's that?" Elias asked. "A speech bubble," she said. He waited. "It's empty," she added. Elias nodded. "That's okay," he said. She looked at him, studying his face the way children did when they sensed the change they couldn't name. "You don't talk as much now," she said. Elias considered denying it. He chose not to. "I talk when it matters," he said. She accepted that. She capped the marker and slid the drawing toward him. You can keep it, she said. He placed it carefully on the counter instead of the refrigerator. He wanted it somewhere quieter. That evening, Elias prepared dinner without checking the time. He moved easily. Familiar motions. He noticed that he no longer rehearsed conversations while chopping vegetables. The habit had faded without announcement. After dinner, Sophia did her homework. Elias read a book. When she asked for help with a word she didn't recognize, he explained it once, simply, and let her try again on her own. Later, as he tucked her into bed, she asked one more question. Did they ever say sorry? She asked. Elias paused. No, he said. She frowned, then shrugged. Okay, she said. She turned onto her side and closed her eyes. Elias stood there for a moment longer than necessary. Then he turned off the light. In the kitchen, he noticed a folder still on the shelf. He took it down. He did not open it. He held it briefly, feeling the weight of paper and effort inside. Then he placed it back, farther to the side than before. Not hidden, just no longer central. The next morning, Elias and Sophia left the apartment together. They walked in, step. At the corner, Sophia ran ahead, then stopped and waited for him, the way she always did. Elias reached her. She smiled and took his hand. He squeezed once and let go. When they parted ways, he watched her until she disappeared through the school gate. He did not check his phone. He did not rehearse what he would say if someone asked him who he was or what he could do. He walked toward the bus stop, hands empty, pace steady. In rooms where authority once decided whether he could be trusted, Elias now spoke less. And in the spaces that mattered most, he no longer needed to say anything at all.